Well, hello again. It's good to be back. Changing the format up for this one. I'm not doing seasons anymore. I'm just going to go pure episodes, and by my count, this will be episode 16. This is a video on how I have dealt with ineffective leadership in the past. And firstly, I just want to thank one of my very, very, very best friends, Thomas. He called me up recently, and we used to work together for many, many years. Very trusted friend, very trusted work colleague. He just told me a couple of the problems that he was having, and I said I'd think on it and put together what I know has worked. I'm going to be looking at some of my notes here that I've been writing down. I know it's 2025 and people are talking about AI and stuff, but I'm old school. I like to write my stuff down with a pen, and I like it like that. So yeah, let's just get on with it. So originally I was going to make this one video, but then I realized there was just too much to talk about to make it one video. So I'm actually going to break it down into five because there's five important points I want to talk about, and I'm going to talk about just one of those points per each video. So let's just get on first to what I mean by leadership. Because to me there's like three levels. You've got your workers, your managers, and your leader. And I think one of the best examples I've ever seen is Stephen Covey gives a great one where he says, imagine a group of people that are in a jungle and they're trying to cut their way out. That's like you and your team with a goal. And the leader is up like on a ladder and he's looking above the treetop and he's pointing the direction of which way to cut, which way to go through the jungle. Then you've got your workers down on the ground, they're ones with machetes and they're working their way through the jungle. Then you've got a few managers behind them and they're the ones rotating staff, handing out water, sharpening blades, doing whatever they need to make sure that the work is getting done and getting done correctly and safely. So that's how I break it down. However, there are times where, in my career anyway, I've had to be at least two and sometimes all three of that. Many times where I've had to be a manager, but I've also been on the ground working in the role as well. And there are some times where I've been the leader with the vision, but I've also had to get with my team and actually coordinate them to make sure they're doing it right. And there are some cases I've been all three, where I've been the guy with the vision, the person on the ground making sure the work gets done, and then jumping in to work wherever I feel the energy needs to be put into when I've got spare time. So it's not, this group, and this group. Sometimes you are flowing between them. But before I begin this, I just want to say that when I say, how I deal with ineffective leadership, first of all, I'm talking about myself and how for most of my career, my leadership was varying degrees of ineffective. And so I have read some things, I've seen some things, even if it's sometimes being a bad example, and I've applied a lot of things. Some of them worked, some of them didn't, and I've gone through 28 years now of working as a professional in three different careers, and I've broken it down as concise as I can to the things that I feel make the biggest difference. Some of them are going to come from the perspective of make the biggest difference because they work, and some of them are going to be biggest difference because they don't work. Don't do these things. So they're kind of like a carrot and stick, do and don't of leadership, of what I've seen that's absolutely effective and what I've seen that absolutely tears the team down. And also, I'm going to be giving it from the perspective of, yes, you could listen to this from the perspective of I'm the leader and how do I improve my leadership. You can also look at it from the perspective of I'm in a management role, so how can I understand leadership, help them develop their vision, and also understand what the goals are for me and my team, and then pass those goals on to my team to help facilitate and get it done, expedite it. And also, as a worker, like how can I understand my management, and also how can I buy into the vision, how can I help my team develop that vision, what is my contribution to the vision, to the goals, and to the work. So this is not, again, I want to be able to not only understand that the roles are sometimes going to be grey in between, but also that you are going to can look at this from the different perspectives of it, of being a leader, of being a manager, and being a worker. All right, so what does title mean? So what do I mean by ineffective? Well, sometimes I've found it's a bit like creating a statue. is that you create it by chipping away what isn't, and what's left is the statue. Sometimes I found when I want to define something, define what isn't it, and usually the opposite of that is what it is. And so this is, in my experience, this is what as I would define as ineffective leadership. Uh, um, Poor leadership sign is low or no influence over the members of the team. That's a very clear sign. And a lack of motivation, the inability to make good decisions or any decisions, poor or non existent communication, um, no growth or adaptability within the group, and no development or successional planning. So if you reverse engineer that, for me, the five biggest signs that there is good leadership is when you've got high levels of influence, and motivation, when you've got an ability to make good decisions and stick with them, when you've got high levels of communication, when you've got growth and adaptability, and when you've got development in the team. And so each of these videos are going to cover one of those points. Today, we're going to be covering influence and motivation. That was first on the list. And so let's get on with this part here. Now, what is, in my opinion, the responsibilities of a leader? The first responsibility of a leader is that you need to create a compelling vision. It has to be something that gets people to really buy into it. Because you can have a vision, but if you don't have a team that's willing to go to war for it, they're probably going to give up at the first sign. They've got to have something. If you look at any great team that is achieving something, all of them are going to share, and that's the important thing. It's not divided. These people think we're doing this, and this group thinks we're doing this group. You should be able to ask your team, what are we doing? Even though they might be in separate departments, but what are we trying to achieve by doing this? And they should have something that aligns. And if they don't, well, that's your step as a leader. That's your indicator to step in to make sure. Second thing, clear communication, and then to create goals to expedite the achievement of that vision. And thirdly, you need to set the ideal example as the leader. It's hypocritical to be asking your team to conduct themselves in a way that you aren't willing to, because everyone can say, oh, I'm willing to do it. No, you're doing it. You've got to be able to do it. If you want your employees to turn up on time, you've got to be on time. If you want your employees to be honest, if you want them to be respectful in communication, you've got to be. You can't be asking them to do anything you're not doing. Otherwise, it will eventually breed contempt, which will undermine all your goals. So none of that, and that's on all levels. You can't do that. But as a leader, it is your responsibility to set that example. So let's get stuck into this. So what does it take to be a leader? Sometimes when I ask people this question, they'll give me like a list, like I just did, a list of attributes or skills. But I look at it like this. You can have all the attributes and skills in the world. If you don't have followers, you're not a leader. You can tell yourself a leader, and then you're talking to a group of people and you go, right, let's go. And then you walk 100 meters down the road, you turn around, no one's following you. You're not the leader. Okay, so that's what it comes down to. You're not a leader unless you've got people who are willing to follow you. And that really comes down to influence, which brings me to my first point. Influence and motivate, the ability to influence and motivate individuals to work as part of a team towards a shared vision, accomplishing goals together. That's how I worded it. Now, what can you do to do that? So what I mean, like bringing a team together and motivating them to share one vision of the future and then work together to accomplish the goals, so you're always living that vision. What do you do first? I think, in my experience of being like all the levels, being a worker, manager, and a leader, rapport. Because you're going to have very, very great difficulty to influence anyone that you don't have any rapport with. And that comes down to like some kind of connection with them. And if you have that connection, then you're going to be able to influence them. And if you don't, it's going to be very, very difficult. You can't really rely on the influence of position. It only goes so far. Now, it really comes down to knowing people, and you've got to be sincere about that. And so what does that look like, having rapport? It looks like building trust. And remember, trust is very easy to lose. So as a leader, you don't want to be doing anything that compromises your trust. Doesn't mean you can't make decisions that are going to hurt people. But if you have to make a decision, like if some people need to be laid off or if they need to be cut somewhere, I'm not saying avoid making those decisions. What I'm saying is be honest about it as soon as you know about it. Be upfront and tell everyone what they need to know, and then do your best to look after them as much as you can. Not only will you gain the respect of those people, anyone watching it, including everyone still in your organization, will see how you handle that, and they'll gain respect for you as well. But it's about like that building of trust. Now, the thing is, you can't fake it. That's the first thing. None of this is any kind of manipulation. You've got to actually care about the people that are part of your team, and why not care? They are your team. I mean, that's like saying you don't care about a part of your body or a part of your brain. I mean, it is you. And it's the same. That organization, those people, they are the organization. So neglecting one part of it, if you neglect your the health of your one of your organs, the whole thing is going to suffer. So same as any organization, you neglect one area, it's all going to suffer. So remember, they are all important. Everyone is important, but you need to take time to get to know. Now, how do you do this? How do you build trust? Well, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Simple as that. You can't fake it. You've got to be sincere. Get to know people. That's what I've learned. Get to know them. Know not just their name, but know like where they come from and where are they going. I don't mean like necessarily geographically, or that could be part of it. Like where were they before this? Whether that be mentally, emotionally, physically, where were they? Where are they? Like what are their motivations? Like they maybe had a different profession. They're going somewhere else. Like they're different trajectories of people. Get to know them. Get to know their desires, their goals, their vision. They have personal vision as well. Get to know people. You've got to care. Now, once you've got that trust of people, and they'll have it from you as well, you will be able to leverage that trust to accomplishment. Because you can come into a group of people. If they don't know you and you say, guys, I think we should do this, straight away, if they don't know you, they don't trust you, if you tell them, especially, this would be good for you. Well, if I don't know who you are and you're telling me I should do something because it's good for me, I don't know if you've got my best interests at heart. So I'm going to be a bit reserved on that. I'm not going to give my all because I need to know first if I can trust you. Like you might be, telling me to put a noose around my neck for all I know. Yeah, make a rope. Yeah, make a rope. It could be for me. So I don't know you yet. But once you've got that trust and the rapport, like I said, you can't fake it. If you come into someone you care about, and you'll know this from your own experience, if you come to someone you care about very much and they know that you care about them and you give them a piece of advice, they know it's in their best interest, they're far more likely to get behind it and go for it. So then, once they've got you've got that leverage, you just start building momentum within the organization, and that's really where the success comes in the momentum building. Now, why do you do this? Again, you're doing it because you want to build trust, and you want to care about people, and that's part of a strong team. All good teams I've ever known, the people have good bonds. It's not rocket science. It's very simple. But that's the why. You want to build that trust. You want to build those relationships. You want to build that bond. Now, how do you do this? Just simple. Get to know your team. Spend a bit of time with them, and let them know about you as well. Let them know about you. But get to know your team. Understand also not just them as a person, but also understand their importance within the organization. I mean, if their position wasn't important, it wouldn't be there. So they are important. And I'll cover this more in the future, but also it is a very natural condition of human beings that the more we know about someone else, naturally the more we care about them. You've ever had an experience where maybe you stopped at a bus stop or an airport and you sat next to someone for 10 minutes, you didn't know them, you didn't care about them at all, and then a conversation struck up and for the next hour you talked? Guarantee when you leave that conversation, you care more about that person than before you started the conversation. Well, what changed? Simply, you know more about each other. When you know more about someone, you care about them more. Because you understand them, and then they understand you. That's how you do it. Just get to know people, and also make. And this is from a leadership perspective as well. Now, make the people working in your organization, make them the focus. I remember I read about a situation. I think it was in the 2000s at Disney, as in Disneyland. They almost went bankrupt, and the reason why is they made the customer the focus of all their energy, and they followed this path for quite a while, I think a couple of decades, and they almost went bankrupt. And they changed their business model that put the employee, the worker, as the center of their focus, and turned the business around because the people felt important. And when they felt important, they felt like what they did mattered. And when they felt like what they did mattered, they put effort into it because it was important, right? That's not a lie. It is important. Make them the focus, okay? You do that, you don't need to worry about customer service because the people will naturally be better at their job and the customer service will come out. I'm not saying ignore everything else, but I'm saying in a priority list, make the team important on the priority list. Make something else second, but make that number one. Prioritize your team. Next thing, create a compelling vision. Right. So I'm going to just give you a couple examples of what I mean by that. You think about Rolls-Royce, the car manufacturer. I don't think they come to work every day and you go, what's our compelling vision? And they say, make more money this year than we made last year. That doesn't compel me. I wouldn't go work for a company if that was really what they were trying to achieve. What would make someone not only want to buy a Rolls-Royce car, but also want to go work for their company is because you know they are an excellence-centric company. Even though I've never worked a day in that company, I've never even driven a Rolls Royce, the reputation is enough alone for me to know that they have made being the best at what they do in the field of luxury cars the center of their modus operandi. Their main objective is to be excellent, truly excellent, like peerless in what they do, and it shows. If you go work for a company, and instead of saying we're going to make more money this year, they say we are going to manufacture the best luxury car this earth has ever seen, and you are going to be part of that, and you are going to be on that same level. That is far more compelling if you're so way inclined. And that's what I mean. You need to be able to give your team a vision that they can really buy into, that makes them feel something. If they're not feeling anything for your vision, remake it. And you get to have do-overs on this. If you're having trouble, now, as a leader, you don't have to have all the answers. What you can do is you can co-author a vision as well. You can come to your teams and say, what is it we want to achieve here? Now, as a leader, you may have a couple of things that are important to you. Make sure those are in the vision. But they may word it in a way that is more compelling to them. In that, particularly, some companies even have visions in each department. You know, they have an overarching company one, but they also have, if you're working for, like Rolls-Royce, say, yeah, but if you're working maybe in the engineering side of things, you may have a very different personal vision than the marketing side of things. But it's all coming together under Rolls-Royce of excellence. That's what I mean. There can be, when you co-author it, you can co-author it individually, but as a leader, like I said, you don't have to have all the answers all the time, and no one expects you to. And it shows humility to admit that you don't, which is also important as a leader. But yeah, get their buy-in. If they tell you, oh yeah, we want to do this, this is what we think is a good idea. Do you think the chances of them following through on that is higher or lower? Of course it's higher. So yeah, get buy-in on it if you can. Now, some of the do's and don'ts of vision is, I remember I worked for a company, and the management team also sometimes had to act as leaders. Unfortunately, I think they were a bit more manager-minded, and they used to come to us, and basically we would hear again and again, their vision would be something like, don't hurt yourself at work today, and hopefully we pass the audit next month. I mean, that was like on repeat all the time, and it's just not compelling. Don't hurt yourself at work, hopefully we pass the audit. And it was just again and again. That's a slog. It's a slog. And it makes you feel like exactly what you are in that position. You're a number. And as human beings, none of us like being referred to as numbers. So how would you redo that? Well, instead of saying like, don't get hurt and hopefully pass the audit, what if you change the vision to, we are going to look out for one another to make sure we go home in the same condition we arrived, to be with our families. Now, the objective is the same. No one gets hurt, right? But can you see, by shifting the perspective of just don't get hurt to we're going to make sure everyone, not just you, we're going to look after each other to make sure all of us go home to be with our families, health in a healthy state, as we arrive. That's more compelling. People are going to be people also, it's going to make people look out for each other. But then also, if someone's looking out for you, you won't take it personally, like, I can do my job. No, we're just looking out for each other. We're making sure. That's what it is, and it brings us together, creates that bond. And passing the audit, like, let's make sure we hopefully pass the audit to maybe something like, we will not we will surpass what we did last time, and that insinuates that we are better at what we're doing. We're growing as an individual, obviously, but also as a group. We are getting better. Everyone loves getting better. So can you see, you've just, as a leader, there's just a quick example of how to take don't hurt yourself, hopefully you pass the audit, to let's all together come to collectively as a group to look after each other, to make sure we go home to our families in the same state that we arrived, and let's surpass what we did last time and grow and get better. Same objective, but just made a little bit more compelling by the use of the language, because it creates a different feeling, doesn't it? I remember the NASA example. I think when JFK was touring NASA, and he asked a janitor, what do you do here? And he's a janitor, right? But he said, I'm helping put a man on the moon. Perfect example of what I mean by everyone bought into the vision. He thinks he's putting a man on the moon. He is. And he is. Because you might say, well, no, he doesn't get it. Okay, but if he doesn't do that job, someone has to do it. Like, they can't be under a mountain of rubbish and doing their job. No one can be. So you might say, well, who's the most important person to put a man on the moon? And immediately you might think astronaut, right? Well, here's a real fact about the moon landing, is that the team that landed on the moon was the B team. The A team got incinerated in a training accident. Basically came down to an engineering fault. So the entire trio of astronauts that were picked as the best of the best died in training due to an engineering fault. So would you really say the engineers are any lower in importance? You could have the best astronauts in the world. If they're getting killed on the job, engineers are important. And even if you get through the training, what about the spaceship? Doesn't that need to get to the moon and back? Again, less important. They're not less important. So you say, okay, so engineers up there. Okay, everyone else is second. No, okay, what about the person preparing their food? What if they get food poisoning on the day they go up and they're stuck in space with food poisoning? So how is that person, the mission fails? This is the point. Anything that would cause the mission to fail, how can that be of less importance? It can't be. So that means everyone is of equal importance. Why? Because it doesn't mean the value you bring to the company is the same. We get financially compensated due to the value that we bring. But that is not to say that it is not equally important to the achievement of the goal. They are two separate things. It's like looking at your body and saying, my brain has more value, like right now, has more value than my lower intestine, right? I can chop a bit of my lower, but would you say my lower intestine is unimportant to my survival? No one would say that. So that's what I'm saying. There's a difference between value and importance. They are no less important. They are, because if they're not doing their job, someone else, again, the engineers fail, they all get incinerated. Important. And it's important as a leader, you understand this, that when you're going around to different groups, you understand that they are equally important. Some people might have higher, more value, but they're all equally important. And what this does also is when people realize that they are important to the success of the business, the group, the team, it actually raises their standards because they feel like what they're doing is important. Of course, if you feel something is important to you, you're going to do it better. And it also changes the culture within a group. It shifts the focus of like a me culture to a we culture because we're all in it together. There's no way that a technician, an analyst in NASA at that time, I'm sure because of the culture, they're not looking down at this other job or that job because you're not as important as me. I guarantee you, everyone would have treated everyone with respect, and that's how the organization should be, and that's how successful ones are. I've been part of unsuccessful ones. I've been part of successful ones, and I can say this: these are the things I'm bringing to you. Just the biggest contrast between when I've seen success and failure. Um, Now, how do you create this compelling vision? Like I said, be honest with your teams and show them some respect. Have some respectful conversations with them. If you don't have the answer, go and ask them. Like, what do you think we should be doing here? You don't have to. You don't have to listen to like give everyone the same amount of time. I think talk to everyone, but the people who have had a track record of success and who have been there for a very long time and have the respect of others, spend more time listening to these people because they deserve it. They've shown that they deserve it with their track record. So give them the time, but surround yourself with people in the organization that you know you can trust. Um, Communicate like so with the football team example. You could be. I'm just going to use it as an example. Don't shift your focus away from we need to have in order to win a footy game we've got to have the best footy side. Well, you can have the best footy side in the world, but if you've got like a terrible bus driver and he doesn't get the team to the game on time, you forfeit. You've lost the game. So maybe next time get a better bus driver. So it's all well and good to have people of high value, but everyone's important to achieving that goal. And the last one I want to talk about is encouragement within the group. So one of the things I've seen in terms of giving encouragement, giving feedback to my team members and receiving it from my bosses is it needs to be specific. When I'm working as part of my group, and I'm thinking one in particular where I was a manager, but I was also a worker working with my team, and we'd have like one of the general managers, whatever, come through, and they'd say something. They'd walk through our organization, and they just sort of say something like, "Good job, team. Keep it up," and go on. You're all just like, whatever. We prefer that than them just chewing us out, sure, but it didn't mean anything because there was no actual recognition. It was just like a generic. It's like, okay, think of it this way: what if someone sends you a birthday card and they don't write it? There's a generic printed thing saying something, and they send it to you. Does that mean anything? No, because there's no specifics in it. You may as well just put that in the bin. Like maybe the thought was nice, but if they say, dear so and so, and then signs up, that's a little bit. It means more because it's been more personalized. It's been more specific. But then if the person actually takes the opposite side of the page to write a paragraph of what you mean to them and sign it, it means so much more because it's personal and it's specific. But that's what I'm talking about. I've got to put those details in. So when someone is doing a good job, come up to them, and this is why it's important to know exactly what they do. Come up to them, speak to the people around them, get to know what they're doing well, and say, "Hey, I love the way you did that. I was a chef for a long time, and I would appreciate." We had one very, very, very good area manager, and I remember he used to come to our pre-starts the day after, and he would tell us which dishes he loved when he was there, and which service he really appreciated. That was good feedback because we were knowing where we were doing a good job. And another good thing as a leader is if you want to also give areas of improvement, it gives you so much more credibility. Because if you just come to a meeting and say, this wasn't good, this wasn't good, this wasn't good, I hope they're better next time, even if you don't, nothing personal, nothing malicious, just you're simply stating facts, right? You won't get any buy-in from the team because they know your feedback was by no means a fair representation of the night. Yes, you found 3 things that we could have been better at, but you could have found 10 things that you liked, that was good, that was better than good. But the way you're talking, it's like the only thing that happened last night were like these 3 failures. And so if you present it like that, it doesn't seem honest. And no human being buys into anything that's not honest. So by being specific and being personalized in your feedback, it also allows any constructive criticism that you give after that to be far more likely to be received well, because you, in their eyes, you were being honest. Because, like I said, I'm being on both sides of this. And instead of, if they come and say three things you did, you sort of sit there going, fuck this guy. But if they say, hey, love this, this was amazing, this area here, I reckon we can do better in this area. But again, overall, feedback is really good. That's just a basic blueprint of how to present that. And it's fair. It's fair. And I don't care, what situation. Sometimes I've been brought in to fix up a team that was like in a really, really bad spot. Even then you can find something. You can always find something to positive to say. I mean, if they're clowning around, you could even say like, you guys have like a really playful energy, but we just need to bring it down a little bit, right? There's a positive way to twist it, but to still get your point across. Then just come in there and just call them a bunch of useless clowns. It's not going to really get you anywhere. Now, another thing to do is have performance reviews. Now, sometimes when people hear performance reviews, there's like a negative connotation, but if they're being done right, your staff should look forward to performance reviews. Because if they're being done right, this is their objective, to build people up. Some people, unfortunately, there does come a time where a person does need to be removed from a situation, but overwhelmingly, and even if the person does get removed, they should have had ample opportunity on multiple performance reviews to correct that behavior. So even when it comes, if you do need to tap them on the shoulder, there's no resentment there, there's no anger, because they've been told repeatedly, and they know they have. But what it does is it allows the person to get the feedback of what they're doing well, so they know what to consistently do. But also, you're giving them an opportunity to grow. So the next time you come back, if you're doing it correctly, you compare the last one to this one, and you say, well done. We both agreed, and that's one of the parts of the performance reviews. You both agree on what the areas are going to be moving forward. You say, look at that area. We both want it up, it's up. Congratulations. Now, we're going to sharpen the saw. Now there's this one area. And we just keep building it, because people feel good when they grow. So giving this feedback regularly allows the person to position themselves for the best opportunity they can for the performance review. Because I'm going to get onto this in a minute, but if there's no feedback at all and then a performance review, it can cause a bit of a problem. I'll get onto that in a second. So why do this? Well, the first thing it does, it builds skills organically and in real time. If you're giving feedback, if you work with a team, probably give them daily feedback. And if you come in every now and again, you might give them weekly or fortnightly or monthly, whatever it is. But there's regular feedback. So what it does is between those times, you are giving them an opportunity to improve. And then the reason why that's important is they get to know if they're heading in the right direction or not. Just think of it like this. You know that game you play where you hide something and you're like hotter, colder, hotter, colder? That's what it is. Like, you tell them this is what you're looking for, and they take a step. Next time you see them, you say basically hotter or colder. Like, is it closer to where they need to be or further away? And then if you say colder, well, they'll take a step in another direction. And of course you can give them guidance so they're not just walking in the blind, but you get my point. It just allows them to get closer and closer and closer until they get it. And that feedback, and you know that the more often you give that hotter or colder, they're going to get closer faster. So sometimes it is good to leave a correct amount of time. What I mean by a correct amount of time is enough time to make a change, but not too long that they sort of get to where they best think and they don't know where else to go next. So there's no point in saying to someone, I want you to make this big change, and then check in with them like 6 hours later. They probably haven't made any progress on it. It might not even maybe in a week. Some changes take a long time. But that's for you as the leader, and as also as a manager in this case, to determine how much time needs to be given for me to be fairly come back and see if there has been improvement. And if there is a failure, maybe it's my training technique that's the failure. Maybe that's something I can look at as well. It's not always their fault. So where we're at, and it also lets you know where they're at professionally, and lets them know where they're at as well, which is a good feeling, because it keeps you humble. Sometimes people I've done this. I've had a much higher inflated opinion on myself, and getting some feedback from someone I respect actually was like, oh shit, okay, need to work on that. So that's important, but it's also important for like you as a team manager and as a leader to know where your people are. You should know in a group of 10 who's the best in that group, which comes under succession planning, which is something we'll talk about later. These are all interrelated, by the way. There's all these disciplines are connected, and the next reason why, and this is the last reason why for this, is when it does come, if you give feedback regularly, when it comes to performance reviews, it eliminates resentment from the team member. I've seen it happen to my teammates, and it's actually happened to me where been working in a group. I thought I'm doing a good job. Never heard anything from my boss at all, or the head of my department. Never heard a word. I went and did my job for 6 months. Never a complaint. Sat down performance review, and then he told me like 3 things that he thought were terrible that I needed to make massive improvements on, or there might be some serious consequences later on. And I remember just sitting there thinking, and I remember this happened to one of my friends as well, just thinking sort of like, what the fuck? It makes you feel like you've been ambushed, because you're thinking, you piece of like, you work with me every single day for 6 months. You work with me every day. We're in the same building right at that time. My job was 12-hour day, 12-hour shifts for 14 days straight. And in 6 months, you have not told me one sentence of anything that I'm doing that is not up to what you think the standard is. And now you've got it like on writing. It feels like they're building a case against you, like to your face, and then they'll smile to you in the morning. They'll shake your hand. They'll look at you in the eye. They'll treat you like a baby. And then just this knife comes out at performance review time, and you're sort of left there stunned. And then later on, like when the meeting's over, you just feel like it was a manipulative trap. One of the best ways to kill morale and lose some of your best staff, because in my experience, I've seen it. Sometimes the higher ups can feel threatened by someone else in the team if they're very good at what they do, and will do things like this. They'll give them no feedback, smile to their face, act like everything's all right, and even if it's not true, that's how you feel. You feel like you've been set up to fail. So by giving this positive, not positive, the honest feedback along the way, you're giving your team members, one, an opportunity to improve, and also you're testing them for like their communication ability, like how well do they listen, how well do they follow direction, also how well do they give feedback. They might say, look, you showed me twice, I just don't get what you, allow you to change your training technique. But also, when they get to the performance review, if they do need to improve, there's no resentment, because you've told them here, you've told them here, you've told them here, and they're still doing it. And you can say, look, we talked about this, so here now, formally, we need to improve. And they don't feel, they're like, yeah, fair enough, you told me 5 times. So that's one of the positives for doing it like that way. So yes, be specific, make it personalized, be descriptive, and make sure that if you can give positive feedback, particularly make it public. If someone does a great job, make them stand up at pre-start. If they get embarrassed, but public recognition is a great thing to look for, not just for the person who's being recognized, but it allows everyone in the organization to look at the person being recognized and for what values, and as much as possible, align it with the values of the team in the vision. So, for example, I hope every organization has like integrity and honesty, maybe an excellence as part of it. Recognize, say, he's doing it or she is doing an excellent job, or they've shown great courage in doing that. Align it with admirable values so that people know what kind of behavior they should be striving for and what kind of behavior they're going to be rewarded for. Because if they stand up because they made more sales and you go, great job to the best salesman, well, all you're telling the person in the group is make the most sales and you recognize. Doesn't say how you can do it, like backstab your colleagues, tear them down, throw them under the bus. Like, you haven't mentioned any of that. You said getting the most number of sales. Well, be dishonest on your sales. That's what I'm saying. Avoid that. You can identify what they did well, but identify the values that you are appreciating in them achieving it. Again, it comes back to the specifics of it. Now, when I've had to give um, feedback, encouragement to people, again, the positive one, as I said, if someone's done a great job, in my experience now, I've learned that's the best way to do it. Um, and now I'm going to give you an example of when someone's done a poor job. So one of the ways I try, especially at the beginning, always give people the benefit of the doubt, as in assume that they're trying to do a good job, and if they're not doing a good job, there is another reason for it than the fact of than the idea that they don't care or they're bad at their profession. Maybe they haven't been trained, maybe this, maybe that. And so it shows belief in someone if you don't assume the worst. And again, it's not just good for the person you're dealing with, but for all your other team that are observing how you treat this person. It's going to let them know how they're going to be treated in the future. And they may know this person's doing a great job, and then maybe they've just been in a bad situation. You come and say, hey, you're a failure. It's not good team building exercise. So give them benefit of the doubt, and this is how I handle it. I've got a staff member over here. They're doing a job. It's not up to the standard that we would deem as acceptable, right? I would come to this person. I would take them to the thing that they've done, and I would basically say this. You and I both know that that is not a representation of what I know you're capable of. Now, you can word it in different things, you can add things to it, but can you see, by saying it like that, what you're saying is, I believe you can do an excellent job, and this, not you, this is not at the standard that I know that you can do. Now, you're showing the person you believe in them, and then they're capable of doing that. And I found that I respond better to that, and my team always responds better than that, than you fucked up. Or look at this guy, what a loser. Don't trust him, it's not working. So I'm almost done with this, but I do remember, it just jogged my memory. I don't remember the name of the fighter pilot, but basically he was a World War II fighter pilot, and he used to fly the propeller planes during the war. Anyway, he was part of an air show. This is in the US, and he's part of an air show, and they're doing exhibition flights for the crowd. And the young guys, the guy filling up the jet fuel, he's only a young kid, like 15 years old, and they were transitioning obviously to jets, and he put accidentally jet fuel into this guy's propeller plane. And this guy was a war hero, celebrated throughout the nation. He takes off, and shortly after taking off, of course, the engine conks out and the plane starts coming back down to earth at a rate of knots. Due to the pilot's great levels of skill, he was able to safely land the plane, and he walked away. When the young boy found out the level of his mistake and that he almost killed this celebrated and exalted war hero, he went into a panic, shakes, sweats, and he even cried when he found out about it. And you know what the fighter pilot did? He came up to the young boy, he put his arm around his shoulder, and he said, I am so sure that you will never make that mistake again. I only want you to refuel my plane from this point forward. What a great way to handle that. To just realize he saw how badly this guy had taken it. He knew there was no need to criticize. There was no need to put him down. He already understood. And a guy who was feeling it that badly, there's no way they ever repeat that mistake again. And to show them such belief, you and I both know there is absolutely no way that kid would ever put the wrong fuel inside that propeller plane again. A great story, and just embodies the final point. So really, that's the end of it, of this first ideal of influence and motivation. I know it's been a long one already, probably my longest video ever, and it's only one of 5. But yeah, again, as I've always said before, if there's anything of value in this, take it, it's yours. If you have any questions, you can just put it in the comments. Yeah, and that's it. And all I'll say before I go get it.